Hey everyone, so today I'm going to talk about my creative practice, specifically the public practice that I have, what you see on Instagram, basically on here on YouTube as well, my relationship with it and the journey I've gone through over the years. I thought to illustrate the point, there is a time lapse on the screen at the moment, hopefully. Took about 1 hour, condensed about 10 minutes. This is just a warm up, so it's something to look at if you're bored. So I started thinking a bit about my own practice, and I came up with 3 stages to describe it: the private, the public and the professional. There are 3 ways of discussing this interaction between the 3 stages. Part A, I guess you have the heuristic approach, something a bit like a dialect. Part B is a free-for-all, and part C is the didactic. I guess any creative will tap into all 3, and I definitely do. The public practice is the second step in all of this. It's backed up by the private practice, thumbnails, tones, challenges, sketching, research, and it informs the professional where I'm not doing like whatever I want to do, but I've got a specific skill set I'm implementing for a client. I find research and the relationship to the practice differs at each stage. Absorption of knowledge and the practicing is a private level, the iteration, cultivation and development is a public level, and the competent and coherent implementation is a professional level. So to begin this, I thought it'd be interesting to look back at some of my older work. This is stuff that I did pre-aged about 18, and the figure drawing specifically, because that is the majority of my public work now. I didn't do any research other than copy superheroes and like characters from Assassin's Creed books at this point. I guess you could call it passive, non-critical work, and because of that, you can see there's a basic understanding of form from muscle memory, but because of a lack of research and practice, it meant that my work had suffered. It appeared quite flat and rough. It's naive, not very developed or considered. I guess you could say that the image on the right does show a little bit of research or understanding of light and reflections, but it was almost nothing. It wasn't like I'd gone to look for any information or anything. I just copied what I'd seen. Completely mindlessly, because that's what my teachers had told me to do. So this is about a year later. I was on a foundation course in art at that point. I'd been having specific lessons and chunks of time devoted to figure drawing and theory lectures. Working on tone, form, negative space, anatomy, perspective. The important stuff that any artist needs to know. The didactic approach would force some understanding of importance of research and backing everything contextually. It'd given me the skills to research, and it got me out of my comfort zone of drawing quote-unquote cool characters. As you can see, the work is still similar and very rough. The bad muscle memory is still holding in there a little bit, and I hadn't implemented personal research into my practice yet. I was just showing up, absorbing, divulging, and thinking that was enough. It wasn't quite cutting it yet to be working at a higher level, but it was definitely getting me in the right mindset of what I had to do to understand, to grow. So this work is from my undergrad. It's about 2 years later because I took a year out of education. This gave me a lot of time to think about what I'd learn and let that sink in. And because I had no lectures or lessons, I had to find it all myself. So this is when the personal research became a fully integrated part of my creative practice. My figure drawing, I think, is much stronger. My understanding of forms and space is backed up by my theatre design training, which was the undergrad, and the importance of contextual research became apparent to me. It's because I didn't want to seem uninformed or offend anyone with my work. The last bit of muscle memory was still holding in there just a little bit, and I was starting to produce a developed style, building on all the other steps from before, and again starting to separate the creative practice into a public and private, which is the first step to becoming a professional, in my opinion. So this next lot of work is taken from my Instagram, the public work. So I took a 3-month break, creative break from doing any kind of work after my undergrad because I was completely burnt out. and I decided to specify as a concept artist. After researching into the skill set I needed, I actually developed a practice regime, something that I still stick to now. I started an MA as well, and specific lessons on research and one-to-ones with my tutors allowed me to access why and how I should research. Adding these two together allowed me to develop faster than I ever had before and produce work that's got me professional jobs, finally separating private, public and professional practices through research and development. And I think as well, probably creating some of the best looking work I've made ever in shorter amounts of time than ever as well. These paintings here maybe take 40 minutes to an hour and a half each, so yeah, a lot quicker than the work I was producing before. So now that we looked at my timeline, I think it's important to discuss what has actually changed. So pre-2016 to foundation, I'd say I actually had boundaries imposed on me. Marco Bucci would say that the talent parasite had died in his book Creativity in the Campfire, and I had development of research skills forced on me as well. Foundation to undergrad, I'd say time away forced me to develop my own research tools and to grow as an artist. I was older and wanting to improve as I wasn't naturally doing so anymore, and the didactic approach had turned into a more heuristic one. This empowered me to want to research in my own time. Between my undergrad and recent, I've learned how and why to research. I've separated my creative practice to benefit myself and my time as greatly as possible, and I've understood that research isn't something to get out of the way or an afterthought. It's an integral and continuous used part of the creative practice. Research and practice are symbiotic, and the same way you have to work on your practice skills, I think you have to work on your research skills as well. So the symbiotic relationship is able to function by doing research for, in and through, and behind creative practice. I find that research in and through what I do most effective, or it makes most sense to me. The idea of heuristically critiquing my own work privately so that I can look at my weak points and iterate ready for my public practice. Research for and behind are closely linked, but I think it's still separate. For I see as active, and it's when you find a weak point you weren't aware of by critiquing your own work. It's kind of like trying to plug a leak in a pirate ship when you find one. And I do this mainly through academic research, looking at old masters and breakdowns of their work. And then behind, I think, is more passive. It's something that you discover you weren't aware about your own work, and then you try and implement it. So it's kind of like looking at other pirate ships going past and realising they're just better designed and wanting to do that to your own pirate ship. And it kind of happens when I'm sat watching YouTube videos in the exploratory process, exploring as it suggests. So how does this exploratory research relate to my creative practice? Well, I'd say that my public practice is at the centre of my creative practice. It's what I see in public informs how I practice privately, and also affects what jobs I get professionally. By internally critiquing whilst working professionally or seeing what clients want, I'm able to adjust my private practice accordingly so that I can accommodate the market, and by remembering to practice my fundamentals and research into my weak points, I'm able to get more work and make this a viable living. I think this heuristic approach to the relationship between research and practice and private, public and professional practice enables a creative to reap the benefits and produce a healthy and ever-growing working habit and relationship with their own creative practice. I think it's something that a lot of people don't think about, but it's something that as soon as I was able to implement, suddenly I grew quite a lot. So as I've been talking mainly about public practice, I think it's really important to talk about social media, as that is the biggest form of public you can get. It's New Year's, Happy New Year's everyone, and I think it's important to talk about New Year's resolution. Mine is to get 500 followers on Instagram. Might not seem like very much to a lot of people, but to me that's quite a big milestone. It's not very far off for me, but I think it's important to not just do a crazy one that you can't achieve, but to do a goal which is achievable and makes you feel good when you finish it. This is kind of based around the idea of creating a strong following of people who like the work I produce, and I'm going to do this through regular public practice. I've done research into it, and I think I found that the best way to do this is to just keep going with it, chipping away. I'm going to work on YouTube as well to create more diversity within what I'm doing, kind of give a bit behind the scenes, and open up the practice to allow people to see how a creative discusses their work to hopefully learn something new. So I've been reading off a script for most of this. This is just off the cuff. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like the painting as well. Feel free to check out my Instagram and website and stuff. It's all below. and hopefully you've learnt something. It's a lot of fun making these videos, even though I'm stressed out and we all hate the sound of our own voices. So I'll leave you all to it. Have a lovely day. Bye.